Good day, everybody. It's 3 o'clock. I'm Koos de Toy, and I head up the Asset Performance Management team in Foresight. Today, in this webinar, we're going to discuss crafting the ultimate roadmap to asset performance management success. I want to introduce Carmi Botha. She's an engineer on my team. She holds a degree, chemical engineering degree from Northwest University. She's been with Foresight for the last 2.5 to 3 years. During the time we're with us now, she's been working in a range of mining sectors, including diamond, iron ore, platinum, and in engaging with customers in implementing and optimizing APM solutions, and that is to improve reliability and performance of assets. As part of these implementations, we interface a lot with CMMS, EAM systems, root cause analysis, and so forth. And Karmi has been vital with that and also assisting the customers taking these systems and also looking then and how to develop further workflows. A daily engagement with customers or with reliability and the maintenance teams, and that's all regards to asset health and performance. She assists with decision supporting and customer maintenance strategy and support customers with stakeholder adoption and change management. She's also very proficient in vibration monitoring and understanding the CBM Conmon data and how to utilize that further with predictive maintenance, incorporating that so that we can accurately do our predictions on failures and to improve on the quality of prediction. So I'm going to cover the next 5 slides as an introduction into Foresight and the APM team, and then hand over to Karmi to take us through the topic of the day. Okay. So Foresight is a JSE. We're listed on the main board of a JSE. We've got global coverage, and as part of our team, we're about 500 plus people, and out of that 500, there's about 120 engineers from various disciplines: mechanical, industrial, electrical, etc. And all of these engineers working together basically and with our partners to address the needs of customers. Okay. So we consist of 4 clusters. It's an IT cluster, a business enablement cluster, channel partner, and then ourselves as the operational technologies cluster. And in this, we focus on asset optimization, the automation, process automation, and simulation of assets. Okay. And then there in the middle, as part of optimization, you can see that's the APM team. And we, as mentioned, we focus a lot on asset health and asset performance. Okay. So we've been doing various projects with customers focused on APM, and you can see we also, it's multi-country and various continents. So from mining assets, we complex critical assets, we basically monitor almost 2,000 assets for these customers with various focusing on various failure modes and so forth. Next. As part of mining operations, you've got your surface operations underground and then also your process plants. And we do a wide coverage on all of these, as you can see from the slide. This is from rotating assets as well as your EMVs and so forth, your moving vehicles, Right. And with this, basically, as part and same with Carmi as part of, this team monitors deep dives with the customers looking into what are the failure modes, working on failure mode effects analysis and these kinds of things, incorporating all of the data from the customers pertaining to assets so that we can get the best performance and asset health out of the assets. With this, I'm handing over to Carmi to take us through the topic of the day. Thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Quiz. Hi, everyone. Karmi. So, what I'll be taking us through today is first of all why APM is important. We are going to look at why you need your roadmap. We're going to look at a holistic view of APM, and then finally the roadmap And then we'll also make some time for questions, which we'll answer via email a bit later. Cool. So let's take a moment to talk about why APM really matters and why it's worth the investment. With a strong APM strategy in place, organizations have seen an increase of up to 20% in asset availability. This means you have fewer unplanned downtimes and more production uptime. Now, it's not just about uptime. APM also drives a 40% reduction in reactive maintenance, helping us move from fix it when it breaks to fix it before it breaks. That shift has a real financial impact. Companies also report up to a 35% decrease in inventory costs because spare parts and materials are better forecasted and planned for. Operations and maintenance costs can drop up to 20%, and at the same time, we see an increase in workforce efficiency by 25% because people are empowered with better tools and better decision making platforms. They're not just left fighting fires as they happen, and that helps them. So, APM is no longer just a luxury or a buzzword. It's a necessity for businesses that want to operate efficiently, avoid unplanned downtime, and get the most out of their assets across their entire life cycle. So, before we go into the roadmap itself, let's talk about why having a roadmap matters. A lot of organizations start APM initiatives in isolated pockets, often reactive, siloed, or overly focused on one specific aspect, like predictive maintenance. Now, while predictive maintenance is valuable, it's only one piece of the puzzle. So, without a roadmap, your efforts can become reactive instead of strategic. It means we're constantly putting out fires instead of preventing them in the first place. The team ends up chasing symptoms instead of addressing root causes. Instead of asking, how do we improve reliability over the next year? They end up getting stuck asking themselves, how do we fix this problem today? And I mean, those cases happen, immediate fixes are needed sometimes, but they can easily consume all of our time and resources, and we never end up stepping back and thinking bigger. So that's the risk operating without a clear roadmap. You end up focusing on what's urgent and not what's important. Next thing can happen is you can lose alignment across your teams. When you don't have any alignment, even the best tools and strategies can start to fall apart. You'll hear one group say, "That's not my job," while another say, "We didn't even know this was happening." Maintenance might have one priority, operations another, IT another. It's like three people trying to row the same boat in a different direction. You end up getting nowhere, and at the end of the day, everyone's just very frustrated. Alignment isn't just about agreeing on a goal. It's about a shared language, shared priorities, and shared accountability. Without APM, it becomes a collection of disconnected efforts instead of a unified strategy. Next up, technology can be adopted without a purpose. So when this happens, it often becomes a solution that searches for a problem rather than the other way around. We've all seen it. Tools get bought because they're the latest, greatest thing, or the vendor gave a really cool demo, but no one really knows where it fits into the organization or what success looks like with this tool. You end up with expensive dashboards, no one is checking, alerts no one trusts, and teams overwhelmed by tools that they didn't even ask for. Technology should be an enabler of a strategy, not a distraction from it. Without a clear purpose, even the best tech becomes shelfware. When there's no real way to measure success, it becomes nearly impossible to prove value or even know if you're heading in the right direction. Without a roadmap, that often occurs. You might feel busy, you might even see some wins here and there, but without KPIs or benchmarks that's been set, it's just a gut feel. Leadership might ask, is this tool working? And all you can give them is like a half-hearted thumbs up, maybe. Clear metrics like reduced downtime, cost saving, or early detections turn your guesswork into confidence. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it, and importantly, you can't scale it. A roadmap provides you with clarity, structure, and sustainability. It turns disconnected APM activities into a unified strategy that delivers real long term business value. So let's look at a few common pitfalls without a strategy. Just as an example, a plant might install 500 sensors on 500 pumps, but no one ever defines any failure modes or alert thresholds. So there's a lot of false alerts, and the poor guy looking at all of these alerts don't know where to start. Another thing could happen is, for example, a mining company implements a very cool APM tool on one conveyor, but they don't have any plan to scale it out to the rest of the plant or maybe some other sites in their organization. Doesn't matter how successful the tool is, they don't have that vision going forward to see where they want to go. Another thing can happen, for example, a utilities provider had years worth of historian data, but no one ever contextualized or cleaned it. So it's difficult to make it usable for analytics. I mean, why have all of this data if you're not going to use it for anything? These examples are avoidable, and that's why you need the right framework in place. Now, we're talking about why APM is important and what can happen if you don't have it. So, what does it really look like? So, there's four main pillars. You have your asset strategy and reliability, your maintenance and work management, your performance and health monitoring, and then your risk, compliance, and governance. So let's start looking at the asset strategy and reliability. This outlines how an organization manages its assets throughout its entire life cycle, from the acquisition to disposal, to maximize value and to achieve business goals. It includes methodologies like RCM, which is your reliability centered maintenance, your FMIAs, and strategy optimization. The goal here is to match the right maintenance tactic to the criticality and risk of each asset. It's not just about doing more work, but doing smarter, more targeted work. This pillar ensures that your assets are supported by the most cost effective and reliability focused plans throughout their entire life cycle, and that those plans evolve as your environment changes. Next up, we have our maintenance and work management. So, once you have your strategy defined, it must be executed well. And that's where maintenance and work management comes in. This covers how your tasks are scheduled, how they're assigned, executed, and closed. And it also helps with the feedback from the field to see if you can refine your strategies. If the strategy defines the what, this pillar, which is the maintenance and work management, manages the how, bridging planning and execution through your CMMS and EAM systems. Efficient work management ensures that your technicians are working on the right jobs at the right time with the right tools. This reduces your downtime, improves labor utilization, and you end up capturing very valuable asset information. It also includes your spares management, ensuring the right parts are available when needed to avoid delays and optimize your inventory costs. Another thing that falls under this is your fleet management. It helps you coordinate your vehicle's availability and maintenance to keep your operations moving smoothly. The third pillar is our performance and health monitoring. Now, this is the pillar that most people associate when you speak of APM. It includes your condition monitoring, predictive analytics, performance monitoring, your early warning systems, but it also spans your visual dashboards, mobile insights, and real time alerts. This pillar helps you move from reactive to proactive, catching problems early. You prioritize interventions and understand trends before they become failures. It empowers both technicians and decision makers with data, turning intuition into insight. And last but not the least, the often overlooked foundation, risk, compliance, and governance. This is where we ensure that asset decisions align with your business priorities, your risk appetite, your regulatory standards, and maybe most important of all, your safety requirements. It's about your visibility, being able to defend why certain work was done or maybe not done, maintaining audit trails, understanding risk exposure across all your asset base, all of that. Without this pillar, even the best strategies and monitoring systems can drift away from what really matters to the business. It ensures discipline, transparency, and, of course, accountability. Together, these four pillars form a complete integrated APM framework. If you're strong in just one area, like monitoring, but weak in strategy or governance, your efforts may not deliver full value. A holistic APM approach ensures that your assets are not just maintained, but optimized, aligned to business goals, and managed sustainably for the long haul. So, let's dive into the roadmap now. This isn't a linear checklist, it's a cycle of maturity, and you can and should definitely loop back to scale over time. So, your first stage is to assess and align. Then you have your second stage, which is your data and asset intelligence. Next up, we'll look at capability enablement as well as your operational integration. And then finally, scaling and sustaining. So, first step, like I mentioned, is assess and align. Now, let's look at APM like you're traveling from Joburg to Cape Town. So, imagine you waking up one morning in Johannesburg and you're saying, let's go to Cape Town. But you don't check what car you're going to drive, agree on a route, or even ask who's driving. Absolute chaos, right? A successful road trip starts with a clear intent. Why are we going? Or what does our success look like? Do we want to take the scenic route? Do we want to be there as fast as possible? And then you figure out who's on board. Is it a friends and family trip? Is it a work trip? Do you take your colleague with? Will you be able to deal with them in the long road through the Karoo? Pick wisely, it's the same with APM. Before rolling out your tools and your dashboards, you need to assess your current state, your maintenance culture, the health of your data, and your biggest asset challenges. What's your current maturity level? Are you still using paper logs or have you implemented a full CMMS system? Now, this is a bit of a tricky question because maturity can be measured in many ways. For example, one site might still rely purely on their paper logs. Uh, they log it there, it's very accurate, it's very consistent, and they use it continuously for decision making. Then you might have another site. They have a fully implemented CMMA system, but it hasn't been adopted by anyone, and the information that is in there isn't really useful, and no one really uses it for decision making. So let me leave you with some food for thought on the maturity topic. Who would you say is more mature? Um, Site number one with their paper logs, where they use it for decision making, or the one with a modern and misused tool? Next up, you have to understand your business goals. What is the priority at the time, and what makes the most business sense? You also have to define how you want to measure your business success. Next up, like I mentioned, you have to decide who you want to take with. Who's your stakeholders? You have to align them. Your management, maintenance, operations, reliability, IT. Everyone needs to agree on the why, the how, and the destination. Then, last but not least, you have to assess the criticality of all of your assets. Depending on the solution or the strategy that you want to implement. For example, all of your assets doesn't need super intense monitoring. So here's a few questions you can ask yourself when doing that. First up, does this asset pose any risk to your people or the environment if it fails? Are there any legal, environmental, industry standards tied to its operation? How much would a failure affect production or service delivery? Would it cause a bottleneck, or is this simply just a standby support asset? What are the financial consequences? You have to look at, would it cause downtime? How much would your repairs cost? How much do you lose in output? And then also, has it failed frequently in the past? Is it prone to failure? Is it in a place where it's prone to wear? So, yeah, those are the questions that you ask yourself for asset criticality. And that wraps up our assess and align stage. This stage is all about setting your direction. It's where we define our APM vision. Pro tip, don't skip this step. This is where a lot of APM projects fail, have failed, and probably will fail um, if this is not done. You have to make sure that you start with a purpose and not just a tool. So, an example of where something like this happened is a gold mine rolled out a predictive maintenance solution on their milling equipment, but it was already over maintained. Their primary concern wasn't necessarily extending the lifetime of the mills, but rather maximizing the performance and throughput. In this case, predictive maintenance wasn't really the right fit, you know. A better approach might have been implementing a performance monitoring or optimization tool instead focusing on the real-time optimization of the mills. So once this was sorted out, once they figured out their operational issues, maybe they could have looked back at predictive maintenance at the time instead of wasting a lot of resources and money on implementing it just from day one. Cool. So next up, we have our data and asset intelligence stage. So now you've agreed to drive to Cape Town. It's time to get your route together. You get up Waze or Google Maps or Apple Maps, whatever you prefer. You see how far you have to drive, where you can refuel, whether there'll be traffic, maybe even look for a scenic race stop along the way. This is your APM intelligence layer. You need asset health history, failure trends, real time data, and contextual information. You're building a data informed understanding of your asset landscape, where things fail, how critical they are, and where the risks lie. This stage is all about laying a strong foundation of data and asset intelligence. First, we need a consistent asset hierarchy. Everyone across all departments need to refer to the asset in the same way. We can't do it in a different way. That just creates confusion and people end up losing trust in the systems. A clear structure ensures that everything rolls out correctly, from individual equipment to plant level performance. Next, we focus on capturing your key equipment information. You get your equipment specifications, historical failure data, OEM recommendations, all of that. These aren't just nice to haves, they give you context to how assets perform over time and what failure might look like for them. We also need to connect the dots. You're integrating your data from your CMMS, EOM, historians, SCADA, even your ERP systems. These systems hold valuable information, but it's only when they're connected that we start seeing the full picture. And finally, we define our failure modes and performance indicators. This step gives us clarity on what success looks like, and also what the risk of underperformance looks like before it turns into an actual problem. When this stage is done right, it becomes the backbone of every APM initiative going forward. Now, another example of a site that didn't entirely, do the preparation of the asset data layer correctly. This is a concentrator plant where they had a lot of sensors on their assets. So, using it further down the line in analytics platforms would have been really valuable to them. But what happened here was they had, let's say, sensor number one on crusher number one, and it's reflected like that in the Conmon platform as well. Sensor number one on crusher number one. But then when it was mapped to the historian, somewhere along the line a mistake popped up and the wrong sensor was mapped to the historian. So instead of seeing sensor number one on crusher number one, we saw sensor number three on thickener number four. Now, this is a problem because that ended up happening across a lot of their assets, which, if this would have been integrated into an analytic system later down the line, any alerts from that system or indications that there might have been a failure might just send the site guys on a whole goose chase and no one would find anything. Um, so, just like your GPS in your road trip makes your journey smarter and more predictable, your asset intelligence gives you foresight. So you're not blindsided like these guys were. Next up, we have our capability enablement. Now, you wouldn't drive across the country without prepping your car, checking your oil, tires, brake fluid, making sure you've got some lacquer music and snacks, and someone who can take the wheel when you get too tired to drive. That's what this stage is in APM. You roll out the tools, your predictive analytics, your failure libraries, work management systems, but you also enable your people. You train your teams, you test the systems, and you build confidence. As we roll out APM, it's important to remember this isn't just a tech shift, it's a people shift as well. And with that comes some very real concerns from your teams. Bringing in APM tools can make some people uneasy, whether it's job security, changing roles, or trusting new systems over experience. The key is open communication, hands on support, and showing quick wins to build confidence. It also helps to keep everyone on the same page so teams stay aligned and get the most out of their tools. So there's this one guy on one of the plants that I assisted. So this was just at the beginning of an implementation stage. This man has been working there for maybe 30 years. He knows every single valve, every single bolt nut on that plant. And the morning I was in a call with him, and he told me, Karmi, when I set foot on this plant this morning, I could smell a gearbox failing. And I was like, okay, well, I mean, I did look at the data beforehand and I could point him in a direction. And he was like, okay, no, I'm going to go investigate. A few hours later, get a message from him. No, he found it. He was like, you were right. I'm like, it's not me that was right. It was the data. And ever since then, he knows he can backs up his nose with the data and smooth sailing going forward. Ultimately, the success of APM isn't just about implementation. It's about inclusion. You bring your people along and the results will follow. It's not enough to have a fast car if the driver doesn't know how to handle it. At the end of the day, you're just going to head for a ditch then. Capability enablement is about making sure everyone knows their role and has what they need to keep the journey running smoothly. So now you're on the N1. You're cruising, everyone's listening to Taylor Swift because, fortunately for you, I picked the music. Um, all your systems are in place, but someone still needs to keep an eye on the map, check the gauges, and help them stay on course. In an ideal world, the site takes the wheel from day one and drives APM forward with full ownership. But in reality, many teams just don't have the capacity to manage it day to day from the start. So that's where we as Foresight come in. We ride alongside you. For example, we help monitoring alerts, checking KPIs, your equipment efficiency, and we run weekly check ins. We help the team settle into the rhythm. This approach keeps things moving while building confidence and capability on site. Over time, ownership naturally shifts. Maintenance teams start planning with predictions, operators report early warnings, planners trust the data, and APM becomes part of your daily flow and it starts being self sustained. So, in our final stage, we have scaling and sustaining. So, let's look at scaling first. You've made it almost halfway to Cape Town now, but now you're thinking, what if we visit the Stellenbosch wine farms too? Or bring more people next time? Maybe we can take another route next time and make less stops. Scaling in APM means expanding to other sites, assets, or use cases. You replicate your success, you standardize your approaches, and integrate more advanced tools like risk modeling or AI. To scale APM effectively, you also need to see how far you've come and to see where improvement is needed. You build dashboards, establish feedback loops, and use a maturity model to show ongoing improvement. So, even once you have arrived in Cape Town, you still need fuel to get around. You need to still check your tires, do ongoing maintenance. Otherwise, one day you'll be stuck in Camps Bay with a dead battery. In APM, this ongoing care is governance. It means continuously improving and revisiting your strategy, reinforcing best practices, and ensuring everything you've built keeps running smoothly without stalling. As I've mentioned before, we don't just support the initial rollout of new tools, we're there day to day, helping operations run seamlessly and ensuring that knowledge transfer happens efficiently and effectively. So, speaking of knowledge transfer, last example from me from one of our clients, they wanted to up their game in the performance and health monitoring part of APM. So, we helped them implement a predictive analytics tool on some of their equipment. Now, they were only censored with what we call the process sensors. So, you would have your motor currents, your oil temperatures, oil flow. And while this predictive maintenance tool helped them define some of the failure modes, they also decided they need to upgrade their conmon. So they installed some vibration sensors, and then after that, um, you would be able to detect more failure modes. So at this moment, we're busy assisting them to integrate it into their predictive analytics software as well. Before that, we helped them getting the vibration data into their historian. And all while we're doing this, they are taking this as a learning opportunity to be able to do this themselves later on for more of the assets on their site and eventually across their whole organization. So, few takeaways from years of APM rollouts from our team. Again, start with goals, not tools. Focus on value generating, process critical, and safety essential assets. Build cross functional alignment early. Make your data contextual, not just available. Don't underestimate change management. And celebrate the small wins to drive adoption. So, to wrap up, APM success isn't about adopting the latest tool, it's about building a system where your assets, your people, and your processes work in sync, driven by data and guided by business value. With the right roadmap, your organization can reduce its risks, optimize asset strategy, improve planning, empower teams, ensure sustainability, and ultimately become more resilient and competitive. And of course, make tons of money. Cool. So that's it from me. Like I mentioned, we will be answering any questions you might have via email. So I'm not going to pause on this for too long, um, but I do want to just plug you with one of our next events. So here, when's this next week? Thursday, 29th of May. We'll have an event here at our offices in Fourways where all of our AI experts will be discussing their different topics. Thanks, everyone.